So hello, Graham, and welcome to DNVGL Spotlight on Shipping series. As many of you will know, Dr. Grahaeme Henderson is Shell's Global Head of Shipping and Maritime. And it's a great pleasure to have a chat with you, Graham. And, during these times, it feels a little bit odd to start a conversation without touching on the great challenge and problem with the seafarers and the lack of exchange. What's your take on that?
We have some 2,000 floating assets, so obviously it's been a real challenge for us and the companies we work with. We took this on fairly early in terms of the challenges for our seafarers. I worked with ICS and others, and we developed some processes to try and get seafarers off of the ships. We've really driven this hard. We were one of the first companies to get people actually successfully off ships with isolation units, etc. We've used a standard process in 31 ports now around the world, and we've got about 2/3 off. But the big issue is those other third, and the problem there is getting the airlines on scheduled flights and also the countries in terms of restrictions and getting entry. We're working it hard, but we can't get around the government restrictions, of course.
It's really appalling, and I really appreciate all the efforts that Shell and many others are doing in the industry. But there is really, in my view, despite the attention even from the Pope, there is a lack of commitment and willingness to deal with this from, say, the heads of states and the authorities.
And it certainly concerns me as to whether at the beginning, shall I say, of the crisis, very much our seafarers were feeling that they were helping society as they were and keeping goods and energy flowing. But of course, there's a limit for everybody.
So maybe that's a good start in this DNVGL Spotlight series, that we bring the spotlight again on this challenge and problem. But the real point of today's conversation was really to address some topics around one of the grand challenges of a time for the maritime industry, the decarbonization journey and the way ahead. And in your view, where do you see Shell Shipping and Maritime in your decarbonization journey, and what steps are you taking to get to where you want?
Yeah, well, in Shell, I think we have a key role to play in that decarbonisation challenge for the shipping industry, as you say, both in terms of the fact that we have a large number of ships on the water, but also the fact that we're a key lubricants and fuel supplier. Some of the commitments we've made, well, firstly, LNG. Over the last year, we've committed 12 chartered LNG fuel tankers. On efficiency, as you well know, because we've worked this with the DNVGL, there's the new Just Add Water technology, JAWS. This is a low cost and quick deployment of software which can optimize a ship's draft and its trim and deliver fairly easily, shall I say, fuel savings and emissions reductions of 7%. And then we're working also on new fuels, working with new universities and partners, funding research. And we have some projects already ongoing in terms of hydrogen and our Hystra project. The other thing I would say is that we have also been working closely with industry, and we conducted 82 interviews with CEOs of ship owners, ship operators, builders, ports, classification societies, financiers, in what we called our all hands on deck report. This is all part of a bigger decarbonisation journey for Shell, because in April this year, we set ourselves the ambition to be a net zero emissions energy business by 2050 or sooner if that is possible.
I think it's so important for the maritime industry that we have what I would call front runners that are willing to, go the extra mile, try out new fuel types, try out efficiency gains where those are to be had. And, in my view, I really believe that LNG or gas in general is a really great fuel for the maritime industry. And, some people, they say that, but it's still a carbon fuel. And, there's debate about, 20% reduction of the CO2. Is it sufficient? And what about rather skipping the LNG option altogether and move to the next, say, stage of more, even better fuels? And my take on this is really we have to watch that perfect doesn't become the enemy of the good in a way. So I still believe that 20% reduction is a great, contribution to decarbonizing shipping. And is it possible to move faster, or should we do more on the LNG side, or what about ammonia or methanol and all these different options?
Well, let's look at those new fuels first. And at the moment, all of those new fuels are challenged. They're not available at scale. We talk about green hydrogen, green ammonia, but this is not available to the industry. Also, there are issues with those fuels in terms of operating with those fuels safely, getting those fuels around in terms of infrastructure around the world, etc. So we actually are looking at hydrogen quite closely. One of the reasons for this is that it is a fuel that will be available through other industry sectors, so aviation, road, heavy industry. And as such, shipping can use an available fuel, and not just developing a new fuel in which it would then have to pay for the production and the infrastructure costs, which, as we know from data that's already available, would be a very large expenditure. In all of this, we actually see that fuel cells are a critical enabler with a huge potential. Fuel cells are very efficient in terms of how they manage the fuel, and also it's got the potential for a 40% emissions reduction when compared to an internal combustion engine. What impact does that have on the fuel cell, and how large those fuel cells have to be able to complete a successful long journey? Now, the good thing is that we can deploy those fuel cells and learn about those fuel cells now using LNG, because the fuel cells are such that it is not an issue as to what is the incoming fuel. So then at a later date, we can switch to one of those future fuels that we talked about, whether it's ammonia, whether it's hydrogen, when it comes to market with scale. So as you're saying, Knut, LNG is a big enabler. It's the quickest route to lowest emissions. Using LNG instead of a higher carbon traditional fuel, while we develop those new fuels like hydrogen, it will allow the industry to make significant reductions in carbon emissions now. So that's how I see the role of LNG.
I couldn't agree more, and I've said also that for the next 1 or 2 vessel generations, I believe that LNG or gas in general is a really good solution. And then naturally we need to work on all these other options that you highlighted well. And looking at this industry, we're facing a grand challenge, and that is really how to decarbonize it. And working together, as you say, drawing in new and fresh talent. I think the circumstances are really there now for, setting up what I call a maritime renaissance, where innovation new ways of thinking and challenging old ways of doing things is really, possible to release great talent at. And I know that you are, working and collaborating with universities, with different ship owners, etc., etc. And how important would you say drawing new talent and collaboration is to set up this so-called maritime renaissance?
Yeah, I do agree with you that unlocking progress on decarbonisation will require collaboration. We're working with a number of coalitions and also the IMO with the Global Alliance, Industry Alliance, to drive lower carbon opportunities. We've got a lot of partners, universities, ports that we're working with to develop the new technologies and the new fuels. And it's going to need collaboration, as I say, on a scale that we've not seen before. Not just collaboration within shipping, but across into those other sectors. And this is where Shell can play a key role, because, of course, we are working in those other sectors, whether it's aviation, road, heavy industry. And we can draw in the learnings from those other sectors and also the opportunities that they will give us in terms of those new fuels. In terms of talent, very much. I must say that all of the new university graduates that we take in, this is the subject they want to work in. And dare I also say, this is the subject which everybody wants to work in.
How will you, as a corporation, ensure that you attract these talents and that you're able to transit into a greener and more environmental friendly future, but at the same time maintain a strong corporate business case and sense of being?
Well, there is tremendous excitement in Shell, because, of course, we are an energy company, and we see great opportunities in a global drive for more and cleaner energy solutions. We've got a lot of existing customers and new customers. We want to work with them to develop the successful and commercially viable decarbonisation pathways, not just for shipping, but also for all of the other sectors too. And we're ready to innovate. We are innovating. We're ready to invest. And as a company involved in multiple areas across the shipping industry and across all of our supply chains, I think we're well positioned to seize the opportunities and meet the challenges of decarbonisation.
Excellent, Grahaeme. And, on a personal note, if I was not at sort of a mature age, I think I might apply for a position.
We'd even take you on now. With your knowledge and experience, those people are also important too, and we're using all of our talent right the way across the company in this very exciting challenge.
That's so true. Grahaeme, thank you so much for joining us for this chat on our series Spotlight on Shipping, and I wish you all the best with your opportunities and challenges ahead, and see you around soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Knut. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.